This is Bawler. Hello, I have prepared an important and interesting video for you. Subscribe and write in the comments what you think about it. Ukraine isn't just surviving, it's engineering its own path to the front lines of modern warfare. Outmatched in both firepower and manpower, Ukrainian forces have countered Russia's invasion with a torrent of battlefield innovation that is as unconventional as it is effective. Makeshift drone factories have sprung up across the country, churning out a bizarre but powerful arsenal of unmanned systems that span the land, sea, and sky. From homes and basements to obscure workshops, Ukraine has built an innovation engine fueled by urgency and necessity. Some of the weapons born from this movement are downright wild, and they're getting results. When Russia initiated its full-scale invasion back in February of 2022, drones were already in use militarily, but they were primarily expensive behemoths like the MQ-9 Reaper or unarmed commercial drones such as DJI Mavics, mostly utilized for reconnaissance. The production of these systems was traditionally centralized under tightly controlled defense contracts. But Ukraine flipped that model upside down. The drone became more than a tool, it became a lifeline. By rewriting the doctrine of drone warfare, Ukraine surged ahead of far more resourced adversaries. Just in the year 2024, Ukraine managed to manufacture over 2.2 million FPV drones and an additional 100,000 long-range variants. According to President Zelensky, with continued support, that figure could jump to 5 million or even 8 million by the close of 2025. Let's examine how this technological insurgency came to life and spotlight some of the most unexpected and brilliant weapons Ukraine has fielded in combat. A large portion of this drone arsenal comes from established producers like Viri and Skyfall. Viri is responsible for mass-producing the Molfar FPV drone, now a staple across Ukraine's defensive lines and instrumental in stopping Russian ground advances. Skyfall, on the other hand, manufactures larger systems like the Vampire Strike drone, nicknamed Baba Yaga by Russian troops, and also produces the more compact Shrike FPV drone, frequently deployed in night missions thanks to its nocturnal guidance systems. However, much of today's production no longer comes from these manufacturers. Instead, it's taking place in ordinary apartments, empty warehouses, and cluttered basements. Small, highly skilled teams are building drones from scratch using off-the-shelf components and even 3D printing parts on the spot. This grassroots ecosystem is fertile ground for innovation, and many of its most ingenious solutions emerge not in labs, but directly on the battlefield. Take one instance. A Ukrainian soldier on the front lines, unable to find explosive casings to make drone bombs, got creative. The solution? An empty Pringles-can. This happened amid the brutal battle for Avdiivka in early 2024. One of the most lethal fronts for Russia. Ukraine had been modifying commercial drones to carry and drop explosives directly on enemy positions. Sometimes those payloads were full-sized bombs, and other times, grenades. Often, these grenades are assembled manually in the trenches. Troops stuff metal casings with sulfate compounds and plastic explosives. That's exactly what soldier Vadim Adamov was doing before his unit ran out of metal shells. Unfazed, he grabbed the Pringles can he had been eating from, cleaned it out, and refilled it with explosives. He mounted this makeshift bomb onto his DJI Mavic drone and with guidance from nearby drone spotters, flew it over a Russian armored vehicle. The canister bomb successfully disabled the vehicle, which was later finished off by additional drone strikes. While we don't know what flavor the chips were, one thing's certain. By the time the can reached Russian forces, it was extra hot. That vehicle, likely costing hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars, was neutralized with a drone that cost a few thousand, $100 worth of explosives, and $1.50 for the can. But Ukraine's drone arsenal isn't just about improvised devices strapped to consumer drones. The Ukrainian military has found a way to deliver much heavier munitions like Soviet-era TM-62 anti-tank landmines using custom-built heavy-lift drones. Though initially designed to be buried underground, these 22-pound disc-shaped mines are now being dropped from above onto enemy tanks. These mines are far too heavy for DJI Mavics, so Ukraine developed its own class of heavy multicopters, hexacopters and octocopters like the Vampire and Kazan. These platforms, assembled from imported components, can carry payloads up to 33 pounds for shorter ranges or 22 pounds over greater distances. These heavy drones are equipped with thermal imaging systems for night operations and have demonstrated lethal effectiveness in battlefield footage, such as a CNN clip where a Vampire dropped 3 82mm mortar rounds to destroy a Russian tank. The Kazan drone can lift up to 44 pounds and is used for similar missions. While these platforms are significantly more expensive, costing between $15,000 and $30,000 each, they deliver the ability to destroy targets that would otherwise require costly guided missiles. The TM-62 landmine in particular has proven highly useful against fortified Russian positions. Compared to mortar shells, it contains a much larger explosive payload, consisting of nearly 80% TNT or RDX. Ukraine modified these mines to be used aerially. Early adaptations involved cutting a hole in the casing and inserting a hand grenade fuse. Now they feature tail fins made from plastic bottles and tubing for aerodynamic stability and are deployed via sling release systems for greater accuracy. These drones are even used to scatter mines remotely onto roads and fields behind enemy lines. Yet perhaps no Ukrainian innovation has reshaped the war more dramatically than the explosive FPV drone. At its core, it's a commercial racing drone modified to carry an anti-tank RPG warhead or fuel bomb. Operated in real time using video goggles and live camera feeds, these drones are now indispensable on the front lines. They fly low and fast, generating a distinct buzzing noise that Russian troops have come to fear. Once a target is acquired, the drone slams into it and detonates with surgical precision. These drones can strike weak points on tanks like engine decks or open hatches and are capable of destroying armored vehicles worth millions. For Vladimir Putin, it must be infuriating to watch $400 hobby drones taking out his prized T-90 tanks. Beyond physical destruction, these drones have an enormous psychological impact. Operators often record the drone's video feed all the way to detonation, and the footage is then posted online, sometimes capturing the last seconds of enemy soldiers' lives. These videos inspire Ukrainian morale and sap the will of Russian troops. The effect becomes even more terrifying with the introduction of airburst munitions, essentially flying claymores. Instead of impacting directly, these drones detonate above enemy positions, showering them with deadly metal shrapnel in a focused arc. A traditional claymore mine consists of a plastic casing filled with hundreds of steel ball bearings and a detonation device. Ukraine has transformed that design into a forward-facing airborne bomb that clears trenches and foxholes with deadly precision. In one chilling clip, a Ukrainian drone circled two exposed Russian soldiers and then detonated its directional charge, killing both instantly. With these weapons, even being in a trench offers no guarantee of safety. Still, if Russian troops had to choose between flying claymores and Ukraine's next invention, they might pick the claymores. Enter the Dragon drones, so named for the fiery terror they unleash. These platforms drop thermite bombs that burn at over 4,000 degrees Fahrenheit, enough to liquefy steel and ignite nearly anything. Ukrainian operators have used them to bypass Russia's improvised tank cages and sandbag armor, known as turtle tanks. The aim is simple: flush out hiding troops and melt their hardware. There are two main methods of attack. In one, the drone drops the thermite charge directly onto a target. In the other, it hovers and disperses burning metal like napalm. In both cases, there's virtually no defense. No fire extinguisher can douse a thermite inferno. Once ignited, Russian troops have mere seconds to escape. Ukraine's innovation doesn't stop in the air or on the ground. The country has developed unmanned ground vehicles, UGVs, like the Ratel S, a tracked kamikaze robot that can carry up to 77 pounds of explosives. Capable of moving at 15 miles per hour over rough terrain, it can navigate trenches, climb small obstacles, and detonate under enemy tanks or inside enemy bunkers. It also serves as a logistics tool, delivering supplies and ammo to frontline units. The Ratel S was developed in coordination with the Ukrainian 120th Reconnaissance Battalion and features resistance to Russian electronic warfare. In fact, Ukraine has tested over 140 UGV designs and approved 14 for use. Russia, for its part, has begun copying many of these innovations, just as Ukraine has borrowed and improved on Russian ideas, such as using fiber-optic FPV drones and camouflage netting over supply routes. But when it comes to naval drone warfare, Ukraine is in a class of its own. Its fleet of uncrewed surface vessels, USVS, most notably the Magura series, have become the stuff of legend. These fast remote-controlled boats are packed with explosives and guided via GPS and onboard cameras. Capable of delivering 660 pounds of payload over 500 miles at speeds of 48 miles per hour, they've been used to sink Russian warships, damage the Kerch Bridge, and even shoot down fighter jets using modified air-to-air missiles. In a jaw-dropping mission in 2024, Ukraine's Group 13 Special Forces used Magura-7 drones equipped with AM-9 missiles to down two Russian Su-30 jets, one over the Black Sea, the other over occupied Crimea. Each aircraft was valued at $50 million. It marked the first known case in history where a sea drone destroyed a military aircraft. Unable to counter this new threat, Russia was forced to evacuate its entire Black Sea fleet from Sevastopol to safer waters further east. It was a humiliating setback that crippled Moscow's ability to launch cruise missile strikes against Ukraine's southern oblasts, including Kherson, Zaporizhia, Odessa, and Mykolaiv. And this is just the beginning. Ukraine's battlefield imagination shows no sign of slowing. From Pringles-cans to robotic sea monsters, they've transformed desperation into dominance. And believe it or not, there's even more to come. Ever heard of invisible soldiers? Stay tuned, subscribe so you don't miss what's next. Thanks for watching.